welcome to the Festival of Storytellers. I thank everybody that's involved with this process because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors.
Welcome everyone to our highly anticipated Author of the Hour session. We are absolutely thrilled to have you all here today. Prepare yourselves to be captivated by these incredible stories and inspiration that our 6 amazing authors will be sharing behind their remarkable books. Today, we are honored to present a distinguished panel of authors who have devoted their hearts and souls to the art of storytelling. These remarkable individuals have dedicated countless hours to crafting unique narratives that will leave a lasting impact on readers from all walks of life. Each of our authors possesses a distinct voice and a compelling story that resonates deeply with their readers. Their incredible journeys and the inspiration behind their literary works will undoubtedly ignite a spark of creativity within each and every one of you. Through this session, we hope to provide a platform for our esteemed authors to delve into the depths of their minds, revealing the emotions, experiences, and profound realizations that have shaped their magnificent works. From heartfelt memoirs to thrilling adventures, these authors have poured their passion onto the pages of their books, leaving an indelible mark on the literary world. Join us in this remarkable journey as our authors unravel the mysteries behind their craft, sharing the challenge they faced, the triumphs they celebrated, and the sheer determination that fueled their creative endeavors. Together, we will explore the very essence of storytelling, discovering the enchantment that lies within the written world. Please take a moment to appreciate the remarkable talents and diverse perspectives of these extraordinary authors. We extend our deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for joining us today. Let us delve into this unparalleled experience and embrace the power of literature. Our very first author of the hour is the man behind the book, Sad Pawpaw. Let me introduce to you Kenny Harmon. Kenny, the retired iron worker from Dibble, Oklahoma, who became more than just a grandfather through a viral tweet. Kenny, a 4th-generation farmer of watermelon and other crops, hails from the tight-knit communities of Dibble and Blanchard in Oklahoma. His story as Sad Pawpaw began on March 16, 2016, when his granddaughter, Kelsey Harmon, posted a tweet about him cooking a dozen of burgers for his 6 grandkids, only to have Kelly show up as a sole guest. Little did Kenny know that his tweet would catapult him to fame, leading to a remarkable journey that would touch the hearts of thousands. Now, dive deeper into Kenny Harmon's fascinating life through the pages of Sad Pawpaw's heritage. unravel the history that began on the wheat fields of Kentucky, where Kenny's family laid the foundations for a future filled with hard work, resilience, and dreams of a better life in America. Discover the joys and struggles of an American farmer as they played an exhilarating new game called baseball and introduced their children to the simple pleasures of graham crackers and peanut butter cookies. But this book is more than just a chronicle of Kenny's personal journey. It's a nostalgic journey through a bygone era in America. Explore the challenges faced by parents and doctors as they search for cures to common ailments like pneumonia, headaches, and even labor pains. Be transported to a time when determination and grit defined the American spirit. A time that will forever be etched in our memories. Join us as we delve into the remarkable life and legacy of Kenny Harmon, the iron worker turned internet sensation known as Sad Pawpaw. Through Sad Pawpaw's heritage, we uncover the story of a man whose humble existence touched the hearts of millions and reawakened our appreciation for values that connects us all: love, family, and community. Let us all welcome Kenny Harmon and his author of the Hour Session.
Good morning, book lovers and storytellers. Good morning, world. Welcome to the grandest online book event of the year, the Festival of Storytellers Chapter 5. We are currently live on all of our social media platforms, so don't be afraid to click, like, and subscribe. I am here today with the author of the hour, Kenny Harmon. I am ready to dive in and have a good conversation with him, guys. So stay tuned. Good morning, Kenny. How are you?
Good morning, Kimmy. It sounds like we're both calling each other Kenny.
Yes, so it's going to be a little
I'm good.
tongue-
How about you?
Good. I am well. I am well. We are going to dive right in because we got people watching and they want to know about you. So, with that being said, tell me about yourself and tell me, did you dream of becoming an author or what was it? What happened? Tell us.
No, I was a very ordinary man until March 16th of 2016. My granddaughter Kelsey was coming in from college for a couple of days and she wanted to come to my house and have dinner. So I told her that'd be great. And we set a time. I made 3 or 4 phone calls to other family members, but there was an issue that I didn't know about. My son Ryan, who was going to tell my daughter-in-law and his 3 of his kids, Ryan forgot about the phone call. So when it came time to eat that evening, 3 of the grandkids didn't even know about the cookout, and one had a date, and Kelsey's brother was running late. So Kelsey and I didn't know why anybody wasn't there at the scheduled time. So she got this idea of playing a joke on her cousins. So she took a picture of me eating my burger, wrote a couple of sentences, put it on Twitter, didn't think anything else about it. And then a couple of hours later, she noticed that it was blowing up. And at
Wow.
that time, I wasn't on social media, so I didn't have any idea of what was going on. I found out about it the next day, but by the time I found out about it, the story had went across Europe, Asia, and Australia, and I had received the nickname of Sad Pawpaw. And it wasn't too long after that, a writer from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, got in touch with me, and that's how everything got started concerning my writing career.
Wow. Because in your book you talk about it talks about where people came from all over the world. How did that make you feel?
That was one of the most amazing days of my life. Uh, One of my grandsons that wasn't there at the cookout that night, it was a couple of days later, he said, we should have a cookout and invite everybody. So 10 days after the viral tweet on March 26, 2016, we had an open cookout. And there were people from 28 different states, a couple of people from Canada,
Wow.
one woman from Australia that came over to cover the cookout. She was with a media company. We figured there was close to 2,000 people there that day. And it was amazing. The people were just great.
Wow. So you're probably now known as everyone's papa.
That's exactly right. I find, at the cookout, there was one guy from Virginia that was only about 10 years younger than me. He was calling me Papa,
That is funny.
which was fine with me. That's a lot of my friends call me Papa.
Probably even in the grocery stores too, I'm believing.
Hmm. That's right.
Wow. So how old were you when you wrote your first book? And is this your first book?
Yes, I was 66 when we started on the first book, but I found new material as time went on. I was doing more and more research, and the book has been revised 4 times. So it was quite a process. It took well over a year because I kept going back to it. Actually, the second book was finished before the first book was actually finished.
Wow. Revised 4 times?
Yeah.
So that took a lot of time, I'm sure.
Yes.
So,
Yes, it did.
which takes me to the next question then. What's the hardest thing about being a writer?
Well, for me, the most difficult thing about writing, I write history books. I've written 4, and the most difficult thing is trying to be as accurate as possible. And there was at least one occasion where I found out I read 2 different accounts of the same story. It reminded me of some of the Bible stories in the New Testament where uh, maybe Mark would give a different description of something that happened versus what Luke, uh, his description of what had happened. So when you run into something like that, you just have to make a choice. Which historian are you going to go with on this story? But the most difficult thing about writing history is when you're writing about sports, because when you write about sports, you always get into statistics. How many home runs did this guy hit? And on and on and on. And when you are dealing with numbers, statistics, you have to be exact. It can't be about 50 or it was close to 40. It has to
Yeah.
be exact. So writing about sports has been the most difficult part of writing my books.
Wow. John Carl says he's an inventor too. Tell them about it. So tell us about it.
About being an inventor,
Yes.
well, I don't know much about being an inventor. I just study history and I write about the history that I like. When I was
Okay.
growing up, I was a big fan of sports and music of the 50s and 60s. I was a drag racing nut back in the 60s and early 70s. And those are the type of things that I write about, the things that I was interested in. I try to put it in a form where younger people that don't know anything about the music and the TV of the 50s and 60s, I try to put it into a form where they can easily understand it.
Wow. So then let me ask you a fun question then. What do you like to do when you're not writing?
When I'm not writing, I have a big lawn. My lawn at my house is about an acre and a half, and I've got several trees around my house. So during the summertime, it's a lot of my activities are with my lawn and the trees that I try to
Uh,
take care of.
Wow. Well, that keeps you busy and in shape, I'm sure.
And there's something new that's come up. Last year, my son that forgot the phone call, Ryan, he built a pond on our property and he stocked it with crappie. So this will be the first summer that we'll be fishing for crappie in our new pond.
Ooh,
So that'll be
that's
something.
fun.
The pond is maybe a quarter mile from my house, so very easy access. So that gives the old timer something to do. Go down there and catch some of
Right,
those crappies. They're good eating too.
right. John Carl came back and said you have things patented. So tell us about that.
Well, I suppose John is talking about a U.S. patent that it's a clothing design. It's kind of odd that John would know about that patent because I've never mentioned it on any of these storytellers event. But in 2015, months before the Sad Papaw story, I had an idea about a clothing design, and I do have a United States patent, a China patent, and a European patent for a clothing design.
Wow, good for you. Are you finding that you just, how did that happen? Like you just tell us how that happened. Like,
The idea for the clothing design.
yes.
Well, I was sitting in front of my computer. This may be hard to believe, but it actually happened. I was sitting in front of my computer about to go online. I believe it was in August of 2015, and I didn't have anything in particular on my mind. I was just fixing to go on the line, see how the stock market was doing, things like that. And this idea came into my head, and it was kind of like a vision. And I've never had anything like it happen. I was wide awake, but in this vision, I saw a young lady with a pair of those jeans that's got the holes in them. I can't think of the name of them now. They're real popular a few years ago, manufactured with holes in them. And this young lady had a pair of these jeans, and she wanted a pair of cutoffs made out of those jeans. So she took a pair of scissors and cut the legs off those jeans. And when she did, she had this real odd look on her face. But all I could see in this vision was her face. And then she held up the cutoffs, and the legs were not cut the same. There was like 2 or 3 inches difference in the lengths of the legs. And I thought, and as soon as I saw those cutoffs, the vision was over. But it stayed with me that day, and the next day, it was still with me. So I thought, what is this? So I got in touch with a patent company, and I paid them to do the research. Of course, anytime you're going to patent something, you've got to make sure it's not already been patented, so you're not wasting your time going any forward.
Yes.
So the patent company found out that my idea was authentic. There wasn't anything else like it. So that's how it came about. As,
Wow.
as amazing as that sounds, that's what happened. So I wound up. They advised me that I need to get a China patent also because of all the knockoffs that come out of China, and that
Okay.
made sense. And then I also found out about the European patent, and I discovered that the European market is twice the size of the United States. With teenagers, 20 somethings, 30 somethings, the European market's twice the size of the United States. So it just made sense to go ahead and get the patent, the Euro patent also. So I've got a clothing design that has 3 patents.
So it sounds like you have a lot more work to do sitting at your computer. Kenny, we are going to play hashtag. So when you see a word pop up on the screen, tell me what you're thinking at that moment or share something that goes along with that word.
Memory.
Yes.
Well, I've always had a good memory. I've had people comment about me remembering things from the 60s and 70s. So that's really a good advantage when someone's writing about history, especially about themselves and other things back when you're growing up. So memory, my thought about that is the things that I remember and the good memory that I've always had. Very similar to my daddy.
Okay. Zinky says, I'm so glad you turned that tweet into a book, Kenny. It's a message that everyone needs to hear. That's so good. Next hashtag.
Experience. That's another thing that goes along with writing. I think someone once said that the best teacher in life is experience, and I have to completely agree with that. People that think they know something about something, they think they're some type of expert because they've read about something. That doesn't make you an expert. If you haven't been there hands on, you think you know something about farming, but you were never around the farm, you don't know farming. I was raised in the 50s, 60s on a 475-acre farm 30 miles south of Oklahoma City. And I know what farming is about, and I know how difficult work was back then. But the man that said the greatest teacher is experience was absolutely right.
I couldn't agree with you more. And you have a lot of experience that you can even share with not just the world, but even your grandkids.
Yes,
How many grandkids do you have?
I've got six.
Six. Okay, you still have six. All right, that's wonderful.
Two
Next,
greats, two great
yes.
granddaughters.
Oh, okay, good. So they're adding more to you.
Yeah,
Wonderful. We'll take the next hashtag.
immigrant. Well, that's even better than the first two because uh, the beginning of my book starts with the origins of my surname. And the origin of my surname has been traced all the way back to 9 AD during the Roman Empire. The original spelling of Harmon was Hermann or Herrmann, German. My people came from Germany to America in 1726. So that word immigrant is special to me after I found out about my ancestors.
Wow, that's so good. Someone on here asked again about challenges as a writer. Are you hard on yourself? Do you set deadlines that you don't meet or you just,
Well, no, I don't set deadlines because if I sit at a computer for more than maybe 3 hours, my back starts hurting. I am kind of getting up there in years, and if I sit in front of a computer and write, work on things, research, about 3 hours is most I'm comfortable with. So I don't try to put any time frame on anything. But
right?
I am a perfectionist. I try to go over everything I write at least twice. Anything I research, if there's any question in my mind when I'm putting it on paper, I'm going to go back to that story and make sure I've got it right. And like I said earlier, especially statistics, numbers, they have to be exact.
Right. Laura B says, do you have a favorite moment when creating your book?
Well, one of my favorite parts of Heritage is a story about a man named Henry Harmon. He was he would be described as some type of Samson for his strength. He was physically very strong. He was 6'2", very muscular, and he had a reputation in the settlements and the forts of his strength. Well, there was one day he proved his strength beyond any doubt. He was a scout that would leave the settlements or forts, and he would go out and scout for signs of Indians. And he liked to scout alone because he would rather put himself in danger than take 2 or 3 people with him. So on one of his scouting expeditions, he was ambushed. His horse was shot out from under him. One of his legs was under the horse, but he used his leg that was free to push that horse off of his leg that was trapped, and he managed to escape. Just
Wow.
an amazing story. That's one of my favorite stories in the book.
Wow. So we will take our next hashtag.
Food. Oh, yummy. I've always enjoyed eating. I remember as a child growing up, we had fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and chicken gravy probably 3 times a week. That was the staple of our food when I was growing up. And to this day, I still love fried chicken. And I've always loved watermelons, and we had thousands and thousands of watermelons. That was one of the crops we raised every summer, thousands of watermelons. About, I guess it's about 35 years ago, something like that, I got my first barbecue grill. And that's when I first started cooking on a grill with charcoal. A lot of people use propane grills, gas grills, but I prefer charcoal. And I've been cooking on a charcoal grill for 35 years, thereabouts.
So at your cookouts, you probably have chicken included, fried chicken included. I'm believing.
Yeah, burgers are normally the main thing, but we've had chicken, pork chops. We've tried to vary a little bit with the cookouts.
Wow. Has the numbers increased at your cookouts?
No, we haven't had anything like that big one. 10
Oh,
days after the Twitter post,
oh.
that was easily the big one.
Are you
And
hoping for a big one?
excuse me.
Are you hoping for a big number like that one again?
Well, I just don't think we can ever match that again unless we advertised for maybe a month of advertising, and if we told people it was the last cookout. See, we hadn't had a cookout since COVID.
Okay.
So I'm kind of going back and forth whether we should have another cookout or not. But if we did, it would be the last one, and we might, have a good crowd if the last cookout was advertised properly.
Well, I'm thinking that you should go for it because food brings everybody together and laughter. Some Laura says, "What were your fondest memories of bonding with people from different states?"
Well, the most amazing thing that day, I guess we've been going. Well, when the day started, uh, I was on the grill, and this is like 9:30 in the morning. This was Saturday, March 26, 2016. And I was on the grill about 9:30, and Ryan told me that there were people standing over just a short distance away that wanted to talk to me. Well, it wasn't sinking in. I hadn't really got it yet in my mind what was going on and how big it was going to be. So I left the grill and went over 30 or 40 feet away from the grill. and a line started forming where I was at, and then there was a line for burgers. And this went on from about 10 in the morning till after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Both lines, the line coming to see me and take the selfies, talk to me, both those lines were at least 30 yards long from
Wow.
about 10 that morning until after 4 o'clock. But the thing that I began to realize after a couple of hours was how happy everybody was, how friendly. It was just, and they were from all over the country. There were people, there were teenagers, there were people 60 something, just all walks of life. And it just, the longer the day went on, the more it was getting to me.
That is
The
wonderful.
compassion that everyone had. And the people were laughing and just having such a good time. I could see everybody talking to each other that were standing in line, and it was amazing. We only we only had one little issue all day, and that was somebody from my family.
Wow. So I guess I should ask. Oh, it says, "Do you ever consider naming the book?" Have Martin Trent says, "Did you ever consider naming the book Sad Papa's Heritage, the memoir?"
Well, I'm glad he asked that. If things go as planned, my last book, currently I've got four. I've just started on number 5, which will be Reflections Part 3. But if things go as planned, my last book will be a memoir. It'll be more like a novel. I'm sure it'll take over a year to write. I'm going to go all the way back to the origins of our surname, all the way back
Wow.
to Roman. I'm going to go all the way back to the Roman Empire. I've just found out new details in the last week about my family. So I'm going to go all the way back and come forward again through the German era. Before, you know, I didn't know it, but before Germany was Germany, it was called Germania.
Wow.
My family was in Germany before it was called Germany. Uh, but I'm going to come forward to the Americas, the colonial days, the pioneer days of moving from Virginia to Kentucky, Kentucky to Missouri, and then eventually to Oklahoma. Then I'm going to get into my youth, my teenage years, my career as an iron worker. I'm going to do the whole 9 yards. It'll be quite a project.
Wow. So, Kenny, we will take our last hashtag, and I'm going to have a question with that hashtag.
Achievement. Well, uh, I think my ironworking career was a great achievement. Uh, I worked in 27 different states. In 1985, I believe it was, after I'd been working iron for at least 15 years. I thought I was a welder, but I really wasn't. But in 1985, I took my first certification test as a welder, and that was the beginning of my welding career. And that was also 1985 was the first year I left Oklahoma to go out of state to work. I went to Maryland. That was my first trip out of state. But through the years, I attained different certifications. Stainless steel, carbon steel. I learned 2G, 3G, 4G on the welding charts. And before my career was over, I had become pretty well known in certain areas about my welding abilities. So that would be the achievement that I'd probably be the most proud of. Of course, the books are very special, but as far as my life as an adult, before Sad Papa, my welding experiences in different states, that was, I think, a good achievement.
So then my question for this word achievement, I noticed you said your last book. Are you gonna throw in the towel after a while or after your
Yeah, I think so.
novel?
I think so.
Why? Why, Kenny? Why?
Well, one thing that may happen, I was wanting to mention this anyway. I had a phone call yesterday afternoon from a representative of a media company, and it looks like there's definitely a possibility of a movie production or a TV series for Heritage coming up in the next year or so.
Really? That
Yeah.
is so
So
good.
if that happens, that means I'm going to have to do some traveling.
Oh,
To I'm sure there's going to be some obligations by the producers and so on. So if that happens, well, uh, I think it'll be time to put down the pen.
but think about it, Kenny. As writers, we're always thinking. So that's why I'm like, last, I don't know if I would, if I don't know if I would want you to say this is going to be your last book because you just never know. And even if, with other stuff going on, you're, as a writer, don't you feel like we're always thinking? We're
Yeah,
always thinking. And it's like the one author said, have a piece of paper around at all times because that's just how our life goes now.
that's true. Uh, One way that I might continue, if I was able to afford it, if I had the money, I would like to hire someone to help me.
Okay.
See, right now I'm doing everything, the research, the writing, and just blah blah blah. I'm doing everything. If I had someone to help me, that would make a difference.
Okay. Are you saying that because you're older now, or just
Yeah,
because you feel like,
like I said, it hurts my back if I sit too long in one
hmm
position. There's been a few times that I've really gotten into something and I've stayed in front of the computer and researched, and I think there's been at least 3 or 4 days I've stayed in front of the computer nearly all day, like 8 hours, and I kind of pay a price for that at night. I have trouble sleeping if I spend that much time in front of a computer and working on different stories.
okay. So my next question that I'm thinking about is reviews. And I'll just make that up as my own hashtag for you. Reviews. I never really realized how much reviews are really helpful. And so what does reviews mean for you? Like, because think about it, as an author, you probably want to see some reviews.
Yes, I'm glad you said that. Uh, Heritage has received at least 3 5-star reviews, and I'm going to put up Reflections Part 1. This is Reflections Part 1.
Okay. All right.
That's me, left hand side, 17 years old.
Oh, what a handsome fella.
Thank you. That was the best looking car I ever owned. 65 Impala SS. That was
Wow.
that was me during the holidays of '67.
Wow.
That is my great grandpa holding my daddy and one of daddy's cousins in
Wow.
1929.
Wow. That's so cool.
And for the older folks, I think the older folks will recognize this photo. That is Ed Sullivan and Buddy Holly.
Oh,
That's Buddy
okay.
Holly, the famous singer from the 1950s. He was on the Ed Sullivan Show a couple of times. And this young man was a Korean War hero from Blanchard. from my hometown. He was killed in Korea in 1951.
Oh,
He received the Silver Star and the Medal of Honor. That's Tony Burris. There's a statue of him in Blanchard. But anyway, Reflections Part 1 has recently received 2 5-star reviews from Hollywood Book Reviews and 2 5 stars from Pacific Book Reviews.
wow.
And if it's okay, I'll read. This quote is on the front. Of Heritage. You might be able to see it there. I'll read
Okay.
this quote. It's from
Yes.
the San Francisco Book Review.
All right.
It's from Christy Elizabeth of the San Francisco Book Review. This is from her review. This book is a treasure, and I feel that most adults would enjoy reading it. So you're right. Reviews are a big part of anyone's book being successful. Any author or most authors are going to tell you, "Oh, I've got a great book. You really got to read this. You got to buy it." But most people want to see somebody else saying that.
Yes. I'm learning as an author. Reviews, I never reviews are just everything. Like even someone liking and subscribing, that helps your book. So I have another question for you. How did you come up with this title of
The
this
title,
book?
as I said earlier, right after the sad Papa story, I was contacted by Charlotte Hopkins of West Elizabeth, Pennsylvania. That's a suburb of Pittsburgh. And Charlotte told me that she was a writer. She emailed me some things, and she said if I wanted to do a book, let her know. She'd be glad to help. And the first thing I thought of was the photo that I right here. First thing I thought of, if you'll notice in this photo, that's a military uniform that this man is wearing. That's Grandpa Harmon in 1918.
Wow.
That's his World War I uniform. And when she asked me about helping me with the book, that's the first thing I thought of was my grandpa's military experience. And then I began to ask questions from my daddy about our ancestors, and he told me some interesting stories. So it was a very easy decision for me to begin the writing career. Now, when I started, I had no idea that there was going to be more than one book. This was supposed to be a one-book deal. But as I got further and further into the book, I realized there was too much material for one book. And early years, don't have any reviews on the early years, but I'll put this up.
Okay.
Early years, that's a photo from 1956 in Chickasha, Oklahoma.
Wow.
Me, my little brother, 2 sisters, and some cousins. This is early years, and I'll get this up there to where that's me on the left side.
Oh my gosh. Look at that cute little
8
baby.
months old. Early years is basically a sequel to Heritage.
Someone said, what was your biggest challenge that you faced when you dug through your family history?
Well, it wasn't that much of a challenge for me. When we started on Heritage, I got in touch with some of my kinfolks, and I found out that one of my cousins had been researching the family for over 20 years. So, bingo, that was big. and she was more than glad to help. And there was like 3 other cousins that pitched in some photos and stories. So the research in the beginning for Heritage was more work by my cousins than it was for me.
Wow.
I was just soaking in what they were giving me. And to be honest about it, back then, 8 years ago, I wasn't good enough with computers to even do research. Like I said, when the Sad Papaw story broke, I wasn't on social media. I
Yeah.
didn't have an iPhone. And my ex-wife, she said, "You're going to get a phone." So, my ex still tell me what to do. So, yeah, she says to my son, "You guys are close to Norman. Take him to an AT&T store and get a phone." Okay. So, I've come a long way in 8 years. I wasn't on social media and didn't have an iPhone. Barely could use a computer. So,
Wow. Well, I'm glad you listened to your ex-wife. Kenny, I was going to ask you, are you the first one in your family to be called Papa, or was your father called that?
no, I'm the first, and
Okay.
that's a story in of itself. We years ago, before we had grandkids, my wife and I had some close friends that were quite a bit younger than we were, and they had a 2-year-old boy, and he had a grandpa that he called Papaw. Well, his grandpa was bald headed. I'm bald headed. So we're at church one night, and I'm holding little Jonathan, our friend, and he looks at me and he says, "Papaw." And
Oh my gosh.
I said, "No, Jonathan, I'm not your papa. We're good friends." Of course, he's 2 years old. He doesn't understand. No, he just sees one bald head, and he sees another bald head, and he likes his grandpa, and he's been around me, so he thinks I'm a grandpa too. That's how I got the name Papa. My daddy was called Pawpaw,
Okay. All right.
and that was my daddy, and my grandpa on my mother's side, he was Pawpaw. So there was 2 Pawpaws before me, and then I got Papaw, and that was it. I was stuck with Papaw, and then that little boy I was telling you about, he had a little brother later on, and both of them called me Papaw.
Oh.
So that's how I became Papaw. It was by some close friends' little boy.
So, Kenny, I am really enjoying our conversation, and so I have another question for you. What advice would you give a younger author?
Well, it's sad, but there's a lot of scam artists in the book industry, and I have been taken more than once, paying money for something that was unnecessary. So that would be my advice to anyone that's getting into the book industry. You need to research any publisher that says they're going to do such and such for you. You need to research, and I'll make a couple of recommendations. Writer's Branding has 2 of my books, the 2 reflection books, Writer's Branding and Reader's Magnet. I'll make those 2 recommendations. Now, I could give a couple other names, but I won't do that. I could give you a couple of names to stay away from, but I'm not going to do that on air. I don't want to put myself in any liability situation.
Well, I don't know about you, Kenny, but I couldn't be more happier with Reader's Magnet. They found me, and I don't know if they found you, but
They
Reader's
did.
Magnet, Reader's Magnet rocks. That's, I mean, there's no other word to use, but hashtag Reader's Magnet rocks.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for them. But this conversation has just been wonderful. I think I'm going to sneak in one final question, and then I need you to tell all of the authors in the world where to get your books. My last question for you is going to be, do you have a favorite chapter out of all your books?
Yes. If I had to pick one chapter, it would be from, well, this goes back to my childhood and one of my heroes. If I had to pick out one chapter, it would be in Reflections Part 2. The old baseball fans from the 50s and 60s will remember this guy. This is Mickey Mantle,
Wow.
the legendary Yankee center fielder
Wow.
from the 50s and 60s. And this is Reflections Part 2. The chapter about Mickey in Reflections Part 2, that would be my favorite chapter in all my books.
Wow. That's so good. So can you tell us where we can find your books? And if you have a website, tell us your website, all of the good places where we can get your books.
My website is sadpapawbooks.net. On my website, there's 3 reviews. I read part of one just a few minutes ago, the San Francisco review. There's also a Pacific review on the website. There's 3 total reviews. Yeah, you're showing some of it right there on the screen.
Yes. Yes.
As far as purchasing the book, Heritage and Early Years, purchase those through Reader's Magnet or Amazon. I was telling you about the media company that contacted me yesterday. One of the reasons they contacted me was from some information they received from Amazon.
Mm.
So, Heritage and Early Years, purchased from Reader's Magnet or Amazon, and Reflections 1 and 2, Writer's Branding or Amazon.
All right. Wow.
And now I've got, before I forget it, I don't want to forget this. A few months ago, I purchased the audio of Heritage. And if it's okay, I'd like to play just a little bit of the audio if we've got time. It's excellent.
Okay.
What we've got here, we're going to start. I don't know. I played some of it yesterday, so I don't know exactly where I'm at with this, but this is going to be during the colonial times. And I think it's going to mention Henry Harmon. I mentioned him earlier as being the colonial Samson with his Hercules or Samson. So and now this can be purchased at audiobooks.com.
Okay.
That's where I got mine. Reader's Magnet did this for me. They set me up with, I had 5 voices to listen to choose. I don't like my voice. I hear my voice recorded. When I was a teenager, somebody recorded something in class one day in high school, and I heard my voice, and it just made me shudder. I do, I sound like that. So I just had a thing about my voice. But anyway, I said, no, I'm not going to do my voice on this audiobook. So they auditioned 5 people, and this is the guy that I chose, and I think he's got a really good voice. And I'll get this going, and we'll listen to a little bit of this.
All right.
And this is from colonial America. This was probably in the 1740s 80s probably.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. See if I can get this going.
To need burying. Upon the tree under which the chief was killed is roughly carved an Indian, a bow, and a gun, commemorative of the fight. The arrows which were shot into Mr. Harmon are in possession of some of his descendants. David E. Johnston, in his history of the Middle New River settlements, gives a ballad which he says was composed by Captain Henry Harmon, herein inserted to show the correct date and add interest to the details of this story. Captain Henry Harmon's Battle Song. Come all ye bold heroes whose hearts flow with courage. With respect pay attention to a bloody fray, fought by Captain Harmon and valiant sons, with the murdering Shawnees they met on the way. The battle was fought on the 12th of November, 1788, where God of his mercy stood by those brave heroes, or they must have yielded to a dismal fate.
Okay, that's a little bit of that.
All right.
And that was a story from a battle that took place November 12th, 1788. And there's a memorial. There's a memorial where that battle took place in Thorpe, West Virginia. At that time, there was no West Virginia. It was Virginia. Later on, they took part of Virginia and made it West Virginia. But I've got photos of that memorial of Henry Harmon and two of his sons that fought in that battle. But anyway, that's for people that don't have a lot of time to read. Please consider the audio book of Heritage at audiobooks.com.
All right. Well, thank you, Kenny, for being here with us today and sharing your story and all of your books. I hope you continue to keep writing. So I don't know about that word last. But we thank you for being here with us today and all of the other people that have tuned in with us. And I just want to say too, because of Reader's Magnet, my book is on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and Reader's Magnet, called Nobody Goes to Heaven Kicking and Screaming. And that's just how it goes. Nobody goes to heaven kicking and screaming. Nobody's going to go to Jesus scared. My book, like I said, is on all the platforms too. I was kind of like you, Kenny. I really wasn't on social media, but then I'm like, okay, well, it really does help when you're an author to be on social media.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm learning more and more about how important reviews are. I feel like you have showed us a lot and told us a lot, and we can just get on those websites in order. And for the people that don't want to hold the book, we can get the audio. So since you told us that, but that's going to be it for today. Like I said, thank you everyone for joining in. And as we say at Reader's Magnet, we share your story with the world. Have a good day.
Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher. It is about us, the authors.